when a man named John Lair made his dreams come alive on this very spot in this valley off the road. Built this barn for mountain music and his radio show. He said he'll go broke, no, he won't last a year. His fiddling and dancing just won't sell around here. He held his own on a prayer and a song. Renfro Valley Barn Dance was born. If this old barn could talk after 75 years, memories, the story, love it would share. All the fine folks and the friends who really care. Keep one man's dream alive.
Howdy folks, and welcome to Renfro Valley. So let's get on over to the barn where the young folks are having so much fun, the kind of fun they have on Saturday night that they won't need to be ashamed of on Sunday morning. And now let's get on over to the barn where the rafters are ringing, the fiddles singing, and the young folks swinging at the big Renfro Valley Barn Dance.
This old barn could talk, well I know it would say, thanks to the people who helped pave the way, thanks to the stars, yesterday and today. Keep one man's dream alive. Thanks to Red Foley, thanks to Linda Lou, thanks to Daisy May, Homer and Jethro, Goofus too. Thanks to Ralph Martin and old Joe Clark. Thank you, Pete Stamper, in New York. Thanks to Lily Mae and all concrete girls. Thank you, Emery Martin, Granny Hart, and so many more. Worked in this valley, left their hearts on this stage to keep one man's dream alive. Huh, 75 years. Now that's a dream come true.
Direct from Renfro Valley, in the heart of the Kentucky hills, Pillsbury's best flour, the whiter flour for lighter baking, presents the Renfro Valley Folks with John Lair.
Then there's peace and content and goodwill in the valley where time stands still.
Howdy, folks. Glad to have you with us a little while today. You know, we're always glad to have company drop in. Just talking to some of the boys and girls a few minutes ago, and we wondered if maybe you wouldn't like to hear a different kind of old country song from what we generally do. Something kind of fast and funny, maybe, like this one by the Coon Creek Girls.
Oh, how many biscuits can you eat this morning?
This morning,
How many biscuits can you eat this evening?
this evening,
How many biscuits can you eat?
49 and a ham of meat. This morning, this evening, right now.
Oh, I love my wife and I love my baby this morning.
This morning,
Love my wife and I love my baby this evening.
this evening,
Love my wife and I love my baby.
oh, I love my biscuits up in gravy. Morning, this evening, right now.
Oh, make my coffee good and strong this morning.
This morning,
Make my coffee good and strong this evening.
this evening,
Make my coffee good and strong.
oh, keep on bringing the biscuits on. This morning, this evening, right now. Oh, how many biscuits can you eat this morning? How many biscuits can you eat this evening? How many biscuits can you eat? 49 and a ham of meat this morning, this evening, right now. Wow, 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 wow.
Now, I'd say that number was kind of a natural for this program, with so many good biscuit-loving Southerners in the audience, and with Pillsbury's Best Flour as a sponsor. You know, for a great many years now, biscuit has been a favorite with Southerners, and sometimes you just kind of wonder why when you stop to think of all the trouble it used to be to bake them. Take this contraption here, for instance. This is the old skillet and lid of great-grandmother's day. Now, you'd roll out your dough and cut out the biscuit and put them here in this skillet. Then you set that over some red-hot coals that you'd raked out on the hearth. Then you took the lid, put it on top like that, shoveled up some more hot coals on top of the lid, and left it there to bake, and you've just baked the best, the brownest, the best flavored biscuit you ever tasted in your life. Sure have been some changes in biscuit baking, haven't it? But one fact still remains. To get good biscuit, you have to have good flour. Not only good flour, but the best. Pillsbury's Best Self-Rising Flour. Pillsbury's Best is the whiter flour for lighter baking. And you always bake your best with Pillsbury's Best, no matter what you're baking. Pies, cookies, cakes, or those wonderful golden brown, light and tender biscuit we all like so well. And remember that Pillsbury's Best Flour is made from only the choicest, whitest part of each grain of wheat. And you girls know that the whiter the flour, the lighter the baking. So if you want to start baking your best, you go down to your grocer's and you get yourself a bag of Pillsbury's Best Flour, either plain or self-rising. And now for something to spread on these biscuits, how about a little smidgen of country lasses, like we make down here during lasses making time?
When it's lasses making time down in the valley, then you know the folks will come from far and near. Grandpa says his hearing's failing, and you know that Grandma's ailing, but you're certain they will be there, don't you never fear, for the old folks all turn out for the occasion, and the young folks with their fancies and their frills. As you harvest summer's labor, gather round and greet your neighbor, when it's lasses making time down in the hills.
Round and round the mill keeps turning, crushing out the sap so sweet. And the fires are brightly burning, pans a steaming from the heat. All about our children sporting, some are singing clear and fine. In the shadows couples courting, for its lasses making time. When its lasses making time down in the valley, then you know the folks will come from far and near. Grandpa says his hearing's failing, and you know that Grandma's ailing. But you're certain they will be there, don't you never fear. For the old folks all turn out for the occasion, and the young folks with their fancies and their frills. As you harvest summer's labor, gather round and greet your neighbor, when his lass making time down in the hills.
In that stir-off scene that you just saw, the little boy that seemed to like molasses so well was little Joe Mullins. Now, we got a couple of grown-up boys here that like it pretty well, too. That's Claude and Roy. They've got a song about it called I Like Molasses.
Some things go together, mighty good to eat. Here's one combination that just can't be beat. Biscuits and molasses, I think that they're the stuff. I eat 'em night and morning, but I never get enough. I like molasses, biscuits and molasses, like 'em winter, summer, spring, or fall. When them biscuits good and hot, or even if they're hot or not, that's the way I like 'em best of all.
After watching Slim Miller, I'd say we had about 3 boys that like molasses. You folks way down south don't have the kind of cane that we grow here in Kentucky to make sorghum with, but you have a kind of your own that's just as good, I guess. Don't know about that, but I do know that if you like long sweetening on your biscuit, that there's an old saying you can remember that ham, fat, gravy, and white wheat bread feeds a man better than he's ever been fed. Now, here's a song that'll fit any part of the country. This old country boy, Ray Mulkey, is singing it for you in a way that'll just plumb make your mouth water.
Just give me some hominy grits and some good old sugar-cured ham. Give me a great big bowl of red gravy, and I'll be such a happy man if I could see magnolias and azaleas in bloom. Just set me up to the table, look out, and give me lots of elbow room, and pass me them mammy fried whole cakes and some good old black-eyed peas. Give me a hay rack full of hot biscuits and make my coffee black if you please. If you serve me all a Dixie in a style so grand, you're gonna have yourself a mighty happy man. Yeah, just pass me some hominy grits and some of that good old sugar-cured ham, and give me a great big bowl of red gravy, and I'll be such a happy man. And if you serve me all a Dixie in a style so grand, you're gonna have yourself a mighty happy man. With sorghum molasses, you're gonna have yourself a mighty happy man.
You recognize that sound, I guess, the old dinner bell. Time for dinner. That means it's time for plenty of fluffy, light biscuit, right? Hot and fresh from the oven. And they'll be the best biscuit your family ever melted butter on when you make them with Pillsbury's Best self-rising flour. That's because Pillsbury's Best is the whiter flour for lighter baking, made from only the choicest center part of the wheat. Just look how white these biscuits are when you split them open. And they're golden crusted, evenly baked, brown all over, just the way the finest biscuits should be. Now, whatever you're baking, you'll find you'll bake your best with Pillsbury's Best. You'll get just the results you want in biscuit, in cakes, in cookies, and pies. And they'll be just the results your family wants, too. So good they won't want to wait till mealtime, even. So whether you're a young housewife just learning to bake for two, or an experienced cook when it comes to making big batches of biscuit for a big family, you'll find Pillsbury's Best flour as a trusty friend. Now, you take my advice and get Pillsbury's Best, either plain or self-rising. And be sure to try the recipes you'll find with every bag of Pillsbury's Best flour. And now for today's closing hymn, we'd like to sing Break Thou the Bread of Life. That's on page 160, Miss Bess. You give us the chord, and let's everybody all join in now and sing it.
Break thou the bread of life, dear Lord, to me. As thou didst break the loaves beside the sea, beyond the sacred page, I seek thee, Lord. My spirit longs for thee, O living word. Bless thou the truth, dear Lord, to me, as thou didst bless the bread by Galilee. Then shall all bondage cease, all fetters fall, and I shall find my peace, my all in all.
Well, folks, we certainly had a good time today, didn't we? Hope you enjoyed yourselves, and we hope we made some of you kind of homesick for some of these scenes of your own childhood. You try to be back with us again next week, and let's see what we can fix up for you.
These visits to Renfro Valley, in the heart of the Kentucky hills, are brought to you by Pillsbury's Best flour, the whiter flour for lighter baking. Direct from Renfro Valley, in the heart of the Kentucky hills, Pillsbury's Best flour, the whiter flour for lighter baking, presents the Renfro Valley Folks with John Lair.
And there's peace and content and goodwill in the valley where time stands
Howdy, folks. It's a pleasure indeed to welcome you to our Renfro Valley. After listening to radio programs from here for the past 18 years, now we're going to show you just what the place looks like. We hope we can give you a better idea of what goes on here. I know that many of you know something already of the history of Renfro Valley, but maybe you could get a better idea of it. Maybe you'd more nearly catch the spirit of the place if you listen now to a little song I wrote about it back in the beginning.
I was born in Renfro Valley, but I drifted far away. I've been back to see the old home and my friends of other days. Somewhere old familiar faces, all the friends I used to know. Things have changed in Renfro Valley since the days of long ago. Others on the old plantation, I can call it home no more. Other forms are at the fireside, other children round the door, other voices sing the old song when the evening sun is low. Mothers sang in Renfro Valley in the days of long ago.
And that, folks, was in a way my own story when I came back to the old home place and started on the restoration of the old Renfro Valley settlement that once stood on this same spot. But I wanted to do more than preserve the walls of buildings. I wanted to recapture here a way of life, the honesty and integrity of another day. Of course, I was willing to admit and enjoy progress, but I still wanted to hold on to some of the better things of the past, too. And speaking of progress and the better things of the past, here's a famous product that combines those two things. I'm very happy to tell you that our new sponsor is Pillsbury's Best Flour. Now, Pillsbury believed both in progress and in the better things of the past. And speaking of progress, you just wouldn't find any more modern, scientific, up-to-date, better mills than those operated by the Pillsbury people. At their mills, they make a finer, whiter flour that's famous for lighter baking. The folks at Pillsbury have been milling finer flour for over 87 years, generations or know-how. The best flour processing methods of the past have been handed down and combined with the most modern methods of today. When you see a sack of Pillsbury's best self-rising flour on your grocery shelf, you can have confidence that here's a finer, whiter flour for all your family baking. From the tenderest, flakiest biscuit to the highest, lightest cake that ever won the first prize at the county fair, Pillsbury's Best is your best baking partner. And that's why we're especially proud that the Pillsbury folks chose us Renfro Valley folks to represent them. Pillsbury's Best Flour is really a fine product. Take a good look at this bag. Now, you go out to the grocery store and you get yourself one just like it, either plain or self-rising, and you'll have the whiter flour for lighter baking. In trying to build up a reservoir of old-time things, such as we have in our Pioneer Museum and the old music in our music library, we spent a lot of time Much more time, in fact, than we spent in building Renfro Valley settlement. My interest in old songs started a long time ago, so far back I can scarcely remember, when I used to listen to the singing of the old ballads by my great-grandmother, Matilda Dalton, who lived to be 108 years old. At her death, she left me this old, faded, handwritten copy of a ballad that became the first number in my musical collection, which is now probably one of the largest in the country. I learned later that this old ballad had quite a history. It had been written down for my grandmother by her sweetheart back around 1815 when he left to join the troops with Andy Jackson at the Battle of New Orleans. He never came back, but she had preserved it through all these years as a memento of him, and at her death left it for me. Here's the way I remember it from hearing her sing it.
There was a rich merchant in London did ride, had one only daughter, her beauty shined bright. She loved a young porter, and to prevent the day of marriage they sent this poor young man away. Oh, now he is gone for to serve his king. It grieves this young lady to think of this thing. She dressed herself up in rich merchant's shape. She wandered away, her true love for to see.
Old music has been largely our stock in trade here in Renfro Valley. We've used it to attract attention to the valley and to the work we're doing here to try to preserve the traditions of America. It hasn't all been one kind, just as the music of the pioneer days that we try to recreate wasn't all of one kind. On Saturday nights, you've heard things like this coming from the big barn.
Fly around, pretty pig, fly around my daisy, fly around my pretty pig, oh, I'm probably crazy. She went up and used the throat knife down the lane, gave my horn now to find her game. Fly around my pretty pig, fly around my daisy, fly around my pretty pig, oh, I'm probably crazy. Never marry a girl, too much money, you do on with two straight eyes, did you call you honey? Fly around my pretty pig, fly around my daisy, fly around my pretty pig, oh, I'm probably crazy.
Chicken and biscuit. Now there's real go-together good eating for you. Chicken and biscuit. Nothing like it. Chicken and biscuit. You just can't beat that combination. But chicken just don't seem right to me without biscuit, and biscuits just don't seem right to me unless they're made with Pillsbury's best self-rising flour. You know, chicken just naturally calls for a lighter, fluffier biscuit to kind of set off that good old-fashioned chicken flavor. And just look at that golden brown crust, just as light as a feather in your hand. You just break one open, white as snow, just as white as snow because they're made from the whiter flour for lighter baking. Pillsbury's best self-rising flour. It's the whiter flour for lighter baking and made from only the choice center part of the wheat, the very whitest part. And only 23 out of every 100 pounds of flour milled by Pillsbury's go into Pillsbury's Best. For biscuit that'll make your chicken dishes famous all around the neighborhood, use Pillsbury's Best self-rising flour. And for all your other good baking, too, those high, moist cakes, flaky, delicate pie crusts, crunchy cookies, use Pillsbury's Best flour, either plain or self-rising. You'll always bake your best with Pillsbury's Best. And of course, there have been other kinds of songs of sentiment, songs of patriotism, songs of love of home and country, and hymns, always hymns. Hymns that have come down through the years as the heritage of all America, not just one little section of the country. Now, hymns have changed their form a lot with the passing years, but here we still remember them and sing them as we learned them as children. You've heard us do many of them on Sunday morning as we gathered around my grandmother's old parlor organ, which we still use, and have lifted our voices together in a hymn such as this.
On Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye to Canaan's fair and happy land where my possessions lie. We will rest in a fair and happy land by and by, just across on the evergreen shore. Sing the song of Moses and the Lamb by and by, and dwell with Jesus evermore. All o'er those wide extended plains shines one eternal day. There God the Son forever reigns and scatters night away. We will rest in the fair and happy land by and by, just across on the evergreen shore. Sing the song of Moses and the Lamb by and by, and dwell with Jesus evermore.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have today. I hope you enjoyed your little visit to Renfro Valley, and we hope you'll try to be with us again next week at the same time. In the meantime, this is John Lair saying goodbye from all the Renfro Valley folks.
These visits to Renfro Valley, in the heart of the Kentucky hills, are brought to you by Pillsbury's Best Flour, the whiter flour for lighter baking.